Ladies and gents, boys and girls, Wednesday, March the 15th, 2023. Hope you're all doing well. Chris Phillips here, your host of the Daily Crow of the Spurs Up Show. Appreciate you all tuning in. I see Bruin Nation, Gavin, Travi, Xavier, Stephen Worrell Jr., C. Youngblood, Gad, Todd Smith, Noah Johns. What is going on? Appreciate you guys tuning in. Also, those in the Big Cock Club Discord. Head over to the TDC Questions channel, the TDC Questions channel, to be sure your questions are answered there. John Edward, what is up? See you as well. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We got a lot to get into, of course. Yardcocks getting the win late last night, if you know the game was moved up to 4 o'clock. So Yardcocks getting the W. We now turn our attention to SEC play, and we sit on the eve of March Madness officially getting underway tomorrow. Going to be a full day of college basketball for those of us who love sports, love the game, and love March Madness as a whole. Really, really exciting stuff. Guys, before we get going, of course, TDC brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Go download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com. And when you do, use the promo code TSUS to receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. Guys, they've got everything you can think of in regards to what you can play, college sports, pro sports, anything and everything in between. And of course, guys, with March Madness starting tomorrow, you want to make sure you're in on the action. I know you're playing your spreads, you're playing your totals, you're playing your futures, but there's tons of value with Prize Picks. So many fans and listeners of the Spurs Up Show and of the Daily Crow have made tons of money with their friends at Prize Picks, and you should as well. So again, go download the Prize Picks app. Go to prizepicks.com. And when you do, use that promo code TSUS to receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. Be sure to check them out and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent you. Guys, we're taking your questions, comments, calls, 843-790-3377. By the way, I want to shout out Nick Muse for this shirt, the Big Nick Energy shirt. This is exactly why I bought this shirt 2 years ago. I think it was actually 3 years ago I bought this, because I was like, you know what? In 2 or 3 years or 5 years or even 10 years, this is going to be a very funny shirt to wear and to look back on, and the fact that Nick Muse dropped this merchandise line. So shout out to Nick. Hope he's doing well. And yeah, really, really good stuff. I saw this in my closet today. I was like, you know what? I have not worn that in like over a year. Why not? We'll pull it out in the rotation. So be it. Kelly Brown says, what kind of mayonnaise in your fridge? Hey, those are the important questions, Kelly. I'm a Duke's guy. Duke's Mayo, of course. Duke's Mayo. John Edward, not a Charlotte Panthers fan. I think you mean Carolina Panthers, but either way, Hayden Hurst is coming home. Yeah, the Panthers have picked up tight end Hayden Hurst, of course, former Gamecock. Big pickup for them. Which quarterback will be throwing to him? We have no idea. Also, guys, we've got Mark Ryan joining the show at 12:15. Very excited to chat with Mark and get his thoughts on a couple different things, but excited to talk with Mark. Again, guys, really, really excited for the show today and excited to get an SEC play this weekend. Let's see. Breaking news. South Carolina's Aaliyah Boston and Iowa's Caitlin Clark headline the Associated Press All-American women's basketball team. So the AP All-American team has dropped for women's basketball. Let's see. Where is the action? Here we go. Why do they not just list the first team? Like, why do they have to write a full-on? They can't just list it. They got to write it out. I'm surprised only Aaliyah Boston from the Gamecocks made the first team. I'm actually surprised that's the case. Let's see. Second team. So Zaya Cook made third team. Zaya Cook was a third team All-American. Aaliyah Boston, first team. It's crazy. I really thought we'd have more, though. Kind of surprised. John Everett says, sarcasm. I said Charlotte because they play in Charlotte. Yes, I understand that, John Everett. I understand that. I do get that. So congratulations to Aaliyah Boston for making the All-American team. Guys, who are your picks, by the way? Who are your picks for March Madness? Who are your picks for March Madness? You guys have any bold predictions, bold picks? By the way, College Baseball Hub tweeted this 6 minutes ago. D1 teams with the win percentage leaders through games played on March the 14th. South Carolina, number 1 in the country at 17-1 with a 944 winning percentage. LSU right behind the Gamecocks, of course, with a 941 winning percentage at 16-1. How about Kentucky's 15-2? How about that? Wofford at 16-2. I know our good buddy Chase, the Queen Slayer, he's big on Wofford. LSU's 16-1. Virginia's 15-1. Louisville's 14-1. Bama's 16-2. I mentioned Kentucky. Wake Forest is 15-2. Arkansas's 14-2. Old Dominion is 14-2. And like I mentioned, Wofford also 14-2. So is there anybody left? I don't think anybody's undefeated still. I don't think anybody's undefeated. So Baker Mayfield has reached an agreement on a 1-year deal worth up to $8.5 million with the Buccaneers. How about that? Baker Mayfield of the Bucs. So a lot of big things happening on the NFL side of things. My guy in Anderson, he's a Packers fan. He's actually happy that Aaron Rodgers is headed to the Jets. So John Edwards says he got a couple upsets. Charleston beating San Diego State and Furman beating Virginia. Love that. Guys, also those again in the Big Cock Club Discord, head over to the TDC Questions channel. The TDC Questions should be sure questions answer that guy. You know, it's really interesting. Sometimes I run experiments on social media. And I'm not saying I create content solely for this reason, but I pay attention to how the masses react to certain pieces of content, right? And so, I know this time of year, admittedly, it's a slower time of year with, we got spring ball starting up, but realistically, football's not really making any noise. Every now and then something will come up, but nothing crazy. We're about to get into SEC play with baseball, but unless you're like a baseball diehard or a diehard of my show and you follow along, are you plugged in? What have you? You're plugged into the level you want to be plugged into, and then, of course, basketball's over. And so this is the time of year, as I mentioned earlier, I mentioned yesterday, that, unless you're a diehard, you're maybe kind of tuned out. But what I think's interesting, getting to the point. What I think's interesting is we all recall the Dakereon Joyner tweet, right, from early in the 2022 football season that shook social media. Right? And social media was a whirlwind for about a week, right? And it ranged from people, simply disagreeing with my take to those trying to get me canceled, calling up my business partners, going to great lengths to do everything they could to wipe TSUS off the face of the earth. What's so interesting, though, right, is you put out a take, an opinion, and I was about to say a critical take or opinion, and I look back, guys, I'm still not sorry for what I said about Dakereon Joyner early in the season. I don't even think it was a hot take necessarily, right? If you look back on it, it's like, okay, that was actually pretty accurate. And if you think about what was actually said, it wasn't even that disrespectful. It was just honest. Either way, though, I say all that to say this. Yesterday, we talked about Dakereon Joyner because of the commentary around him playing the running back position and the way. And I was very complimentary of Dak because, again, I like Dakereon Joyner. I always have. And, was very complimentary about he needs to touch the football. He can be a playmaker for us. He's got a skill set, although he may not be a quarterback or receiver or running back by trade necessarily. He's not one of those things. He can be many things, and he can be a positive impact guy for you. And an impact player in this offense for this football team can help you win games. But was very complimentary and positive about Dakereon Joyner. And so I threw up that video clip yesterday, and surprise, it's not going nearly, it doesn't have nearly the virality that the tweet back during the football season did. And it's just intriguing. It's interesting to me. It is. It's the, and I'm not surprised. It's the nature of social media. It's especially the nature of the Bird app. There's some people that they only speak up when they want to cancel somebody. There's some people they only speak up when they want to be enraged. And if the only time you speak up is when you're enraged, if the only time you speak up and you speak out is when you're upset or you're fired up or you're trying to get someone canceled, that's on you. You actually like that. You gravitate towards that. Because if that wasn't the case, you would also make it a point to spread positivity. You would make it a point to spread, something besides the negative, if you will. So I just think it's interesting. I just think it's interesting. And it's why I've said before, fans and people, consumers out there, they can say they don't like the Mark Ryans of the world. They can say they don't like the critical banter and some of the quote unquote shock jocks that are out there. And certainly my goal would never be to be one. I've never created a piece of content because I've said to myself, well, this is what's going to move the needle. I was literally talking about this yesterday to somebody that, there's people obviously that create content solely to go viral, right? And so it's not genuine, authentic content, right? They're literally creating it solely to go viral. And I just can't imagine living that way. But I think consumers have to take some of the responsibility, because if content like, Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharpe, and I'm not saying those guys do a bad job, but if that type of content didn't move the needle, guess what, guys? That type of content wouldn't exist. People would stop making that content. If bad news didn't sell, right, then we would stop seeing so much bad news. But it is what sells, and it is what moves the needle. If I would have made a video yesterday instead saying that, well, I don't think Dakereon Joyner is a very good football player. I don't care what position they put him in. I think put him at running back's a waste of time. He's just not very good. He's not this. He's not that. That would have gone viral. That would have gone crazy. People would have used it as an opportunity to try to get TSUS canceled or drag my name through the mud for whatever reason. I'm not really complaining. I fully accepted what the nature of the beast is, but it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad, right? Like, it's, when you think about it, it's a little bit unfortunate. It is. It's a little bit unfortunate. And I'm not even, listen, I'm guilty too. We pay attention to the car crash, right? And I think it's because we lack perspective, but for human beings, it's in our human nature that when things go well or we speak positively, well, that's how it's supposed to be. So we don't give it as much attention or credit. We don't have enough perspective. We don't express gratitude consistently enough. But we love to watch when things go right, and we love to complain. We love to bitch. We love to dwell, right? We love that. It fuels us, right? Like that's we love that. And again, I'm speaking with you all, not to you all. But it's also, again, I think as end consumers, the end consumers got to hold themselves accountable. In regards to, well, why is this content? Why are you doing this? Why are you stoking these fires? Because stoking fires is what moves the needle. And for people in content, it is about views. It is about getting people riled up and generating reactions. And that's what generates banter. So again, I'm always going to be true, genuine, authentic myself. I'm going to create the content that, number one, I believe drives value to my audience, but number two, that I want to make. And I'm going to be genuine, authentic, real to myself. I've done that since the jump. So I don't know, guys. I'm just sort of rambling here randomly on a Wednesday, but I just thought that was interesting. That Dakereon Joyner clip, it was a, and I'm not saying I went out of my way to be positive. That's just truly genuinely how I felt. But it's interesting how that doesn't get near the reaction that a simple tweet that, if you really, again, looked at it, because we didn't talk about this when it happened. If you really would have looked at it, wasn't all that bad. People wanted to be triggered. People wanted to get upset. That's what's crazy. And I know, again, Bruin Nation, many of you others, though, I just see Bruin Nation a lot on Twitter, so I know he resonates. There's a lot of things that happen on Twitter that it's like people just want to get upset. Because most things you can see both sides of. You know what I mean? Most things you can see both sides of. So a lot of people choose the side of being upset. It's crazy, man. Anyways, well, I'm not going to apologize for the rant, but there's your daily rant. I just thought it was interesting, honestly. Mark Ryan about to join us here in the next minute or so. Really excited to chat with him. Excited to chat with Mark and get his thoughts on a few different things. Hopefully we do not have any sort of technical issues like we had last week. And I see your comments, Coleman Hall. I think some great points is people are addicted to negativity and positivity. Man, the negative Nellies tend to be louder. Bad controversial news usually gets a reply and a discussion. Good, and that is it. Great point. Good news poses no threat. Bad news triggers survival instincts. Yeah, I would agree. No, it's interesting. It's interesting for sure. No doubt. Okay, that being said, hey, let's go ahead and get him on. He's live every single day, Monday through Friday, 3 to 7, Offsides with Mark Ryan. And of course, he joins our show every Wednesday around 12:15 or so. Very excited to chat with the man himself, Mark Ryan. Mark, I appreciate you taking the time, my friend. Great to see you. What's going on?
Always good to catch up with you, Chris Phillips, and the Spurs Up Show crowd. What's good? I've missed you guys. Hope everyone's having a good week. And we are getting ready, Chris, for the two most unproductive work days in American history, Thursday and Friday. What is your strategy, Chris, for Thursday and Friday? In the days, Chris, when we had real jobs, what was your strategy? You either call in sick, you're either at work in body but not in mind, right?
Yeah.
Or you just take the days off. What do you do?
Yeah, so when I was going to ask you the same thing, Mark, but my previous experience before the business was sales and digital marketing. So kind of a loose, lax atmosphere for anybody who's worked in sales. It's a little bit more laid back, if you will. I will say, I'll never forget, Mark, 2016, I actually took those 2 days off, Thursday, Friday, like 3 months in advance. I knew, I was like, I want to do nothing but sit around. I was also gambling on sports a little bit at that point here and there. And I knew, I was like, I want to be putting action in. I want to watch basketball nonstop for the next 3-4 days, what have you. So taking the days off is always a great strategy. But if not, the good news was, again, when we worked in sales, we would actually put the games up on a projector at one of the places I worked at. So but you're right, Mark, nothing gets done. I mean, truly nothing gets done. They should be considered national holidays, in my opinion. I don't know. Like, why even fight it? Why not just all embrace it, right? I mean, so.
If we got days off, which for sports holidays, Chris, if we got days off for sports holidays, and look, I think it's time. Sports has reached a place in our country where we should have a sports holiday. Do you do the day after the Super Bowl? Do you do opening day of Major League Baseball? Brother, I am doing one, if not both of these 2 days of March Madness because, look, all these people are at work and not working. And I'll tell you, Chris, a story from inside the business. And by the way, on the chat, Lynn Turner and Jay Smith said hello. What's good to you guys? Great to see you as well. Chris, this was circa 2012, okay? 11 years ago. First day of March Madness, I had 103 fever. What did I do? I showed up to work. Why? Because I knew if I called in sick, they would think I was playing hooky.
Yeah.
No one's going to believe you. It's the worst day to actually be sick because no one believes that you actually are. And I'm like, okay, when I walk in there and when I get on the air, they're going to be like, this guy looks and sounds like crap, which is no different from any other day, you know? But then they saw me, they heard me, and they're like, go home. Please go home. You're a really sick dude. So, yeah, man, that's the way it goes, man. But I'm excited about it. Furman taking on Virginia. Gamecocks knocking Clemson out of the tournaments, or at least indirectly knocking them out of the tournaments. There's a lot to kick around with you, my friends.
Yeah, Mark, for sure. And I was going to say, too, that speaking of the sports holidays, I think Monday after the Super Bowl is a no-brainer for me. Like, I think, as a baseball fan, I would love to see, opening day. I think that'd be a really cool one because there's games all day long and all that. But, like, I could live with that one not being a holiday. But the Monday after the Super Bowl, Mark, that to me just makes too much sense. That truly makes too much sense to me. But whatever. It is what it is.
Well, yeah, but look, Chris, we get like Columbus Day. You know what I mean? We get like
just trade it, right? Just trade.
We get President's Day.
Yeah.
Give me 2 days, okay? And if you give me 2 days, Chris, I am going to choose either the first 2 days of March Madness for my 2 days, or the first day of March Madness and the day after the Super Bowl. If you give me 2 days, that's the only decision I got to make. Am I using both of the days on March Madness, or one on March Madness and one on the Super Bowl? Opening day for Major League Baseball has kind of lost a little bit of its luster, if you ask me. But can we all agree, ladies and gentlemen, is this change we can believe in? Let's make America great again. Let's give the people what they want. A sports
Truly.
holiday. A sports
Truly.
holiday. Can I get an amen?
Amen. Mark, as a sports fan, how brutal is the Monday after this weekend, after you've just been, divulging in basketball nonstop, and then it's like that Monday, there's just no sports. It's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like coming off of something. You're like, I need to come down slowly. This is too abrupt. Where are the games?
No, exactly, Chris. And I hit that, Chris, the Monday, like the Tuesday after the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So this year it was February 14th, Valentine's Day.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I've been eating steak every day. You just took my steak away from me. Now what am I going to do?
Mhm.
You know, I got like a bunch of sides in front of me now, man. Where's the beef?
Mhm.
And it is when you do this, guys, every single day to bring you into what Chris and I do, it is a real challenge. Like you get used to having the creme de la creme. You get used to having the best of content. And that's like, suddenly you got to turn on the creative part of your brain again because it's like, whoa, I've got 4 hours to fill and I don't know how I'm going to do that. And I don't want to feel like I'm filling time. I want to feel like I'm providing content of value to our audience. So it becomes very, very difficult. By the way, GAD says, Mark beat me too. Can I get an amen? We're thinking all along the same lines. Brother David Garrick says, rather have the day after college football championship. But see, Chris, you got to be able to have a consensus among Americans as to what day it's going to be. I don't think enough Americans would pick the day after the college football championship, right? I don't think because the college football championship should be on Saturday anyway.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's the real problem with that. Like, why is it played on a Monday night? That makes no sense. No sense at all. But yeah, that just makes too much sense. Speaking of college basketball, Mark, you asked me this on your show on Monday. I want to turn it back on you. As we begin March Madness, dust has settled for the Gamecocks. Obviously, their season has come to an end, mercifully, some would say. But when you look at Lamont Paris, year one, now that it's over, when you look back, how do you evaluate it? If you want to give it a grade, I know I told you C+, because it's strange to, be pounding your chest and gloating over a year in which you performed as poorly as they did at times. But you did overachieve. You did overachieve preseason expectations, which were 14th in the league. You finished 12th. Your just overall thoughts on year one of Lamont Paris?
B. I give him a B, Chris, because this was the projected last place team in the SEC. They did not finish last in the SEC. You guys know that I've said, other folks have said that the Gamecock roster remind me of G.G. Jackson and 4 guys from the Y. You know what I mean? And so when you don't finish last with that roster, and then at the end of the season, you're largely competitive in almost every single game that you're playing, it paints a picture for what next year could look like. And, now you're on the 2-year plan. You have 2 growth years. Next year, the goal is NIT. And the following year, the goal is tournament. And maybe that's realistic, Chris, and maybe it isn't. Okay, maybe it's going to take a little bit longer than that. But freaking Brad Brownell has gotten 13 years of mediocrity. All right. Interestingly, both Clemson and South Carolina fans who have informed us in great numbers that the goals for their programs are the same. Make the tournament more years than you miss it. Well, Brad Brownell has just been brought back for a 14th season, which shows you all you need to know about where Clemson Athletics prioritizes men's basketball. They don't at all, okay? Because what they're saying is, oh, yeah, Brad Brownell met the criteria to continue. What? Almost making the tournament, Chris, is good enough for keeping your job. Almost. Being one of the first 4 out of, we got to bring him back. And I had a number of Clemson fans say to me, this is one of the most successful seasons in Clemson men's basketball history. You can't fire him. One of the most successful seasons. Bro, you set your own expectations. There is nothing limiting you. What was Gonzaga before the last 10 or 12 years? What were they? Seriously. Like, you build a program, you are making history every single day. So decide what your standards are going to be for your program, and then hold everyone accountable to those standards. Go get it. Go make it happen. But Chris, I got to tell you, man, in the history of college athletics, have you ever seen a rival bend over another rival the way that South Carolina has bent over Clemson the last 100 days.
Yeah,
Have you ever seen it? I went back and
no.
I was looking at this, Chris. I was looking at best rivalries and
Hmm.
most painful moments of rivalries. In the last 100 days, the Gamecocks have knocked Clemson out of the college football playoff, and that's not coming from me. That's coming from a college football playoff committee member that I spoke to. Okay, they knocked Clemson out of the playoff. Clemson is in the playoff if they beat South Carolina, and at least indirectly, South Carolina also knocked Clemson out of March Madness in the last 100 days. I mean, you guys are sticking them, and then you're letting them bleed to death over the last 100 days. I cannot think of another instance, Chris, in the history of college athletics where a rival has hurt another rival more in a shorter period of time than the Gamecocks have hurt Clemson. And I know you're probably very empathetic toward Clemson. You're probably extending your heart out to them for these moments. Look, Chris, Clemson finished 23-10 with 4 bad losses, 2 in quad 3, 2 in quad 4. Boston College, South Carolina in quad 3, and Loyola of Chicago and Louisville in quad 4. If that is 24-9 with 3 bad losses, do they get in? Maybe, right? Maybe. So consider what the Gamecocks have done to Clemson. How was that prostate exam, Clemson fans? That was absolutely, positively brutal for Clemson fans. And look, man, they could beat you in football for the next 3 years, and it still wouldn't make up for what you've done for them right now.
I was going to ask you, Mark, as a Gator, and Florida State is a great rivalry. Have you ever seen a span where the Gators or FSU had the upper hand, quite like a dominant span, if you will, across all sports, or wrecking their dreams? I mean, I know, obviously, I think back to, which it's really intriguing when you think about 96, when, what was it, FSU beat Florida in the regular season, then Florida turns around and beats FSU in the national championship, the one that matters, which crazy. I mean, I can't even imagine that happening with South Carolina and Clemson sucks. What a wild set of circumstances that would be. But what are some memorable? Do you recall any memorable like dominations like that across a certain time span with Florida?
Well,
Florida
by
State?
the way, Chris, I was in the marching band at Florida those 2 years. Okay,
Really?
that year. So my sophomore year, I was in the marching band. I'll bring you guys a little story. Okay, we're on the field, Chris. We're getting ready to go on to pregame. They've got this huge this flag of Florida State with the logo on it is the length of the end zone. Okay, and I notice it's there, so I hatched a plan. Okay, let's hope that the authorities don't hear this, because hopefully the statute of limitations have expired. But Chris, the trombone section and we unrolled the flag so we would be marching right on top of it. Okay, so that's what we did. We unrolled the flag. We marched right on top of the Florida State logo. When we got back to our section, stadium security was there, quote, asking for the trombone player who unrolled the flag and had everyone march all over it. You know what I mean? No one gave me up, Chris. No one still has found me. Chris, that was a particular game. Florida lost the first game 24-21. It was a game where there were numerous late hits out of bounds that were not called. It was at Florida State. It was one of those games where you're the better team and all the BS is working against you. You get a chance through Texas's upset of Nebraska in the Big 12 championship game. And then Ohio State beat Arizona State in the Rose Bowl, which moved Florida all the way up from 4-2 for that rematch against Florida State. Steve Spurrier added in the shotgun against a fearsome defensive line of Florida State, which gave Danny Werfel, Riedel Anthony, Jacquez Green, Ike Hilliard and company, Fred Taylor, enough time to operate. And then after the game, that Florida won 52-20. Bobby Bowden said, "Now you see why I didn't want to play these guys again." I mean, now you see, because he knew that he had it. It was coming for him. It was coming for him big time. Chris, to your point, there's never been a time, in my opinion, that one rival has gotten over on another rival more, with more at stake, has hurt them more, ripped their hearts out more than South Carolina has done right now to Clemson. But in 1998, Chris, the best game ever played in the Swamp, Florida State had one of their best teams ever. Florida had 2 losses, and Florida won 32-29, essentially at the gun. in the greatest game ever played in the Swamp. I was there. It registered as a small earthquake, on on the Richter scale. It was insane.
Isn't that game actually nicknamed the greatest game ever played in the Swamp?
It
Because
is.
I remember playing, like, you'd play NCAA football and they'd have the moments or whatever, and you could go back and play it. And I think that was, and then there was another one, the choke it doke. That was the other one, I think. Yeah, I just recall that for whatever reason.
I don't remember the choke it doke at all, but I remember the I remember the
right,
the greatest game ever played in the Swamp.
Of course, yeah, of course. No, that's Florida State in the 90s was incredible between Spurrier and Bowden, what have you. Speaking of football, Mark, of course, Gamecocks returned to the practice field yesterday, spring ball underway. And it's like I told you, I think on Monday, I think it more so provides us, kind of throws us the alley-oop, a great opportunity to, to bring football back in a conversation, because realistically, we're not behind closed doors. We're not going to really be at practice. A lot of it's just reinstilling fundamentals and kind of going through the basics. And then we've talked about it, right? Spring games and how they can kind of feel. I mean, it's a glorified scrimmage at the end of the day, but when you look at South kind of football again, you start up the conversation. I just think about, a new year, new expectations, sort of the pressure surrounding the Gamecocks football program. And I think the big storyline for this spring is, as spring ball begins, the Dowell Loggins era begins, and Spencer Rattler and expectations for him. And, you come off of last year, and I know the way you finished, obviously we have this idea of Spencer Rattler and what he's going to be this year and what this offense is going to look like. But I don't know, Mark, a lot of big storylines. Again, I know it's just spring ball, but for us diehards, it's something that we follow extremely closely, and just excited to see how with the Gamecocks, how it progresses, and just sort of if you read enough between the lines, same thing with you in Florida, or every single SEC school. If you listen to the coordinators, listen to players talk, you can kind of start to see, okay, who are the stars of the fall going to be. You can kind of start to get some glimpses of what your football team's going to look like. But really intriguing. Bottom line, Mark, just glad to have some football back in the fold, if you will.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. This hurts me deep within my loins, Chris. Really, really does. Is the fact that I can't think of a season with less excitement heading in if you're a Florida fan, and I can't think of a season with more excitement heading in if you're a Gamecock fan. Right? Was it you, Chris, that posted the SEC coaches rankings the other day? Like somebody,
yeah, Beamer was ranked 24th. Yes, 24th.
Well, no. But yesterday, I think it was just the SEC head coaches.
Oh, no, I didn't post that.
Yeah, and Beamer was 6th, and Napier was 11th out of 14 coaches. And I looked at the list and I was like, darn it, I can't argue this at this point. You know what I mean? Like I can't argue it. I can't argue who was ahead of him. I can't argue being 11th because of what's been seen and what's been shown and not having the track record. And I think best case scenario for Florida this year, 7-5. Best case scenario for the Gamecock, 7-5 is an abomination at Florida. Okay, right. That's the best case scenario. Best case scenario for the Gamecocks this year, I think, is 9-3, and I think it's all going to hinge upon how quickly everything gels with the new system, right? To what degree are the playmakers getting the ball? To what degree is Dowell Loggins an upgrade over Marcus Satterfield from a year ago? These are questions that we don't yet know the answer to. But I'll tell you, Chris, at some point you're looking at where South Carolina is, and certainly there are questions, but there are more questions about the rest of the teams in that division, right? And have we not highlighted that in year 1, Shane Beamer finishes 4th in the East? Year 2, he finishes 3rd in the East. Year 3, why should the goal not be 2nd in the East this year? Kentucky adds Devin Leary. They've got a good core group of players and a good system, but they're beatable. Tennessee, everyone wants to, channeling my inner Dennis Green, crown Josh Heupel's ass. But Josh Heupel had one really good year. Like, I don't understand all this Josh Heupel love. Like, Brad Crawford had him in his top 10 coaches, Chris. He may be eventually, but after 1 year, year 1 was what, 7-6, 6-7 after year 1. So, you lose Hendon Hooker, you lose your 2 best wide receivers. What's the guarantee that Tennessee is this top 10 or top 15 team next year? Florida is clearly in transition. and you're never worried about Missouri or Vanderbilt, except for the fact that they could beat you or I, right? You're not worried about them in the standings, though. So I think South Carolina has fewer questions than anyone else in the East, not named Georgia. And so I think second place is a very viable and realistic goal.
Yeah, I think you make great points there, Mark, in regards to the rest of the conference, rest of the division, if you will. And certainly we'll spend a lot of time talking about that, breaking it down as we get closer to kickoff. Something I talked about, Mark, earlier this week. We'd love to get your thoughts on it. With Texas and Oklahoma joining the league, and everybody's going to have 3 permanent opponents. I said for South Carolina that I thought the 3 permanent opponents, or I thought what would be good. Obviously we're all just kind of throwing stuff at a wall, seeing if it sticks and making our projections, if you will. But I said that for South Carolina, because I think you got to be realistic, right? You can't say Mississippi State, Missouri, and Vandy, right? It has to be balanced. So I said for the Gamecocks, I'd love to get your thoughts. The 3 permanent opponents that I'd be fine with, I'd be good with. Georgia, because I love the border war and I love playing the best. Florida, I like that game. I like playing the Gators. And then Vandy. Your thoughts on the 3 permanent opponents and
on the
South?
Chris.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. I think Florida's going to be back. I think Florida's going to be a tough team. A lot of people said Tennessee instead of Florida. I mean, I have no problems with that either.
Here's what so you had Georgia,
Florida, Vandy. Georgia, Florida,
okay,
Vandy.
So here's what I heard there. Here's what I heard when you just said that. Georgia, Florida, and let's sit back and have some candy. That's what I heard.
Hey, somebody has to play Vanderbilt. Somebody's got to play it.
Yeah, I volunteer. Florida Volunteers over here. Okay.
Are you sure after last year, Florida Volunteers? Are you sure?
Georgia, Florida, and that looks like some good movie candy over there. You see that? Give me some of that. No, man. Look. I went, Chris. I actually did a deep dive on this when the projections came out, and Florida and LSU got based on scale of 1 to 10, Chris. You evaluate Alabama as a 10, right? 10, right? So scale of 1 to 10, Georgia's a 10. Florida, where are they? Maybe a 7 as a program, 7, right? 6, 7, somewhere in there. South Carolina, maybe a 6 as a program, but probably better than Florida this next year. So I went through and just like what you could expect to face on a year in, year out basis. Florida and LSU got the worst draw of anybody because they threw Oklahoma for no reason. You know what I mean? Like Oklahoma was on, and like Oklahoma as a program is an 8. What you could expect to get each year in that game is an 8. And I think Georgia, South Carolina, and Oklahoma were Florida's. Where is the candy in that threesome? You know what I'm saying? That's not any threesome that I've ever been a fan of, Chris. So look, I've got an issue there. I've got a real issue there. And I like that Nick Saban popped off about that because it's not set in stone yet. And so it's holding them accountable. Vandy, Chris, give me a break.
Somebody has to play them. Somebody has to play them. That's all I'm saying. Who's going to get them? Somebody's going to get them. That's all I'm saying. Somebody's going to get them.
Well, I'll tell you the proposed opponents for Auburn, and I thought this was cute. Auburn would get Alabama, Georgia, and Vanderbilt.
Well, you kind of have to throw them the layup at that point, right? My goodness. Good luck with Good luck with Bama and Georgia every year.
Well, we got a couple of questions coming in here, Chris. Gamecock Barbecue and Jeff Golich want to ask me, do I think Billy Napier gets another year? Jeff Golich says if they finish 6-6. Guys, I don't think continuing to replace coaches is the way to go. I'm going to give Billy Napier at least 4 years. Okay, at least 4 years. Because you got to understand, in the culture where everyone pieces out and leaves and the transfer portal and NIL, the cupboard was bare essentially when he took over. He had Anthony Richardson and not much else. They're begging Ricky Pearsall to come back and not go pro to be their number 1 wide receiver next year. And they had Graham Mertz, elect to go to Florida. It was the only school that gave him a scholarship out of the transfer portal, Chris. So I'm going to give him some time, and I don't think you can write the book on him after year 2. I think this year is going to be ugly. And I think I'm going to be talking a lot of Florida fans off the ledge after this year in Gainesville.
That's what I was going to say, Mark. Do you think that your school of thinking is going to be the popular consensus amongst Gator fans? Because I don't think so. I mean, the expectations at Florida.
No. I think they're going to be. No, I think they're going to be fire and brimstones, and the natives are restless, and the pitchforks are coming out. I think all that's going to happen, Chris. But what I'm saying is, it's very possible if you think about it in the lines that you think about Lamont Paris. Like if Lamont Paris goes 13-17 next year, do you know that he's not the guy? I don't think you can say that, right? I don't think you can say that at all, right? And then it goes back to, well, we're in a different era now, but consider how long it took Spurrier to pop at South Carolina, right? Consider how long that took. Consider how long it took Frank Beamer to pop at Virginia Tech, right? Now, Florida's a different animal, but, Chris, when you have 2 failed head coaching hires in a row, the program takes a step back. When you have 3 failed coaching hires in a row, the program isn't what it used to be. Right. And the Florida Gators had Jim McElwain, Will Muschamp, Jim McElwain, and Dan Mullen. Now, Dan Mullen, you can make a point, maybe was fired a little bit too early, did some good things. But Jim McElwain, Will Muschamp, Jim McElwain, Dan Mullen, you're going to tell me you're going to close the book on Billy Napier after a couple of years? Yeah. For continuity's sake, don't you need to just stick with this for a little while, right?
And he was such a highly sought after guy too. I feel like he was such like a hot name. When you were talking about potential big time coaches or whatever when he was coming out of Louisiana. So no, I agree with you. I don't think changing coaches every 2 or 3 years is the way to go. Although they're getting paid a lot and the pressures to win are there, I just you can't build a program that way. You just realistically can't do it. So I would agree with you 110%. Mark, I know we've got SEC baseball obviously starting this weekend. Hey, Florida has Alabama tomorrow night. I think they're on SEC Network, top 25 matchup. The Gators are they're red hot. I think Florida's very, very good. South Carolina 17-1 now. I'll just ask you really briefly, as SEC play, as we really get into, dare I say, Mark, the important part of the schedule, because non-conference and everything is great. Obviously, taking down the Tigers 2 of 3, that was awesome. Great to talk about. But SEC play, Mark, is where you separate the men from the boys truly, right? I mean, this is where we find out who you really are. Your impressions of, the SEC, if you have any, but South Carolina baseball, what they've been doing. And obviously, again, I know it's against non-conference competition, but, the way they're swinging the bats, I think, is catching the attention of everyone in college baseball. And I'm really, really excited to see if that continues as they go up against weekend after weekend, the best pitching that the collegiate game has to offer.
Yeah, look, South Carolina looks great. Chris, I'm waiting for you to amend your statement that you're not sure South Carolina is Omaha bound. You're not sure. Chris, name me 10 programs thus far that look better, okay? The lineup is absolutely popping. Mm-hmm. The SEC, Chris, just consider where the SEC is as a conference, where it's number 1 in football, number 1 in baseball, top 3 in basketball. The money that the football programs have generated for everybody else, every other athlete, tennis, gymnastics, baseball, should thank the football players every time they cross paths with them, because they are rising all the ships for the other programs in the league. But I will say, Chris, that I think college baseball has a real visibility problem. I was lamenting the fact in November, that the Clemson, South Carolina basketball game, men's basketball, wasn't on TV. And people are saying, what? It's on my TV. It's on my TV. No. Your ESPN Plus is not broadcast television, brother. Right. And so when you're somebody like me, Chris, and you have sold me, and then the Reedy River rivalry sold me at Fluor Field on paying more attention to college baseball. Like, I need to be able to turn on, I've got YouTube TV. I need to be able to turn on YouTube TV and have it be there on one of the networks. I don't want to be hooking up HDMI cables and plugging my phone into my TV and like putting up a projector screen and all this stuff. It needs to be more visible. It has a visibility problem, right? For a number of years in this country, Major League Baseball was more popular than the really? Well, college baseball has never been more popular than college basketball. Why? College basketball has March Madness, but college baseball has a fantastic postseason. I love the postseason system of college baseball. So I think the powers that be need to really sit down and say, we've got a great product here. How do we make this more visible? How do we get more games on these hundreds of channels so people know right where to go to see all the best games, man? I think there's a visibility problem with college baseball.
Yeah, Mark, and I would agree with you, and I think many others would as well, because it is a great product. I know baseball is sort of an acquired taste for some, or it's something, you love from birth, or from, when you're a young child or a young kid or what have you. But I definitely agree with you. It's a great product that needs to be featured more. Mark Ryan of Offsides with Mark Ryan. Mark, I got one last thing for you. It's a little bit off the wall, a little bit of change of pace, more so about you directly. And what I think so intriguing about you and your content, obviously you're a national sports guy, but being in the state of South Carolina, you talk a lot of Gamecocks and a lot of Tigers. How were you able to effectively position yourself sort of in the middle? And despite what some may say, you are in the middle, because it's funny. I had somebody comment in our Discord about, let Mark know that, we knocked Clem sucks out of the tournament. I'm like, dude, he's been ragging them all week. Like, I'm like, Mark gives Clemson just as much hell as he gives South Carolina, but most Gamecock fans, and it's just the nature of Twitter and social media, as you only focus on, some people do, they only focus on the things that outrage them and make them upset. They don't give credit to all of the content. I mean, I feel that in my own space as well. But how were you able to effectively sort of toe the line? Because as you felt, right, it's a really tough line to toe. And I feel like you probably, live by this. I would say if both sides dislike you, then you're doing something right. Or if both sides give you hell, or you create banter on both sides, you're doing your job. So how are you able to effectively do that? Because, again, I know as a national sports host, although being in the state of South Carolina, it's kind of like one of those things. You're either garnet and black or you're orange and purple. And if you're neither and you're in the middle, both sides give you shit. So how are you able to teeter that so well?
Chris, the best thing I can tell you is, like, you got to have your team that is not either one of those. You know what I mean? And if you have your team and you give 0 Fs, right? Then that's the best way you can do it. And my favorite part of this, Chris, is Clemson fans think I'm in bed with the Gamecocks. Gamecock fans think I'm in bed with Clemson. And you got to make sure, Chris, you throw everybody a bone when they've earned it, right? You got to make sure you do that. But, I was hearing from Clemson fans this week, man, you don't seem very #all in to me. And I'm like, I never was. When was I ever all in? You use the hashtag when you write a tweet about them for the same reason that you and everyone else does, so it's more easily found. But Chris, you gotta, you really have to take note of the positives and negatives that you are releasing. And at the end of each month, Chris, we look back at the podcast that we post, the content that we post, and we say, okay, we had 20 posts on Clemson, and okay, 9 were positive and 11 were negative. Let's try to get that as close to 10 and 10 as possible. And then we look at South Carolina. We've got 20 posts on South Carolina. 11 were positive, 9 were negative. Let's try to get that as close to 50-50 as possible, which creates a situation, Chris, where the listeners just go nuts because they don't know what to think and they don't know what to believe. But you just do your best, man, to be fair. And I appreciate the compliment very, very much, because it's not an easy thing. When people say that our show is the Paul Feinbaum of South Carolina, who fans the flame of the war in Alabama, is how he came to fame, right? I take that as a huge compliment, man, because it's not easy. Everybody wants to classify you as being on one side or other. With you, Chris, it's easy. There's no question about where you stand, right? But for me, there was a missing link in this community. Obviously Gamecock fans are there. There's a Clemson Homer station in our market, right? There was a real need for somebody to come in and just shoot straight with people, right? Sometimes they can't handle the truth, Chris. Sometimes they can't handle it, but there's a real need to get in there and shoot straight with people. And that's what we do to the very, very best of our ability.
Mark, very well said. And again, that's why you guys have so much success. So again, man, I love to hear it. I appreciate you coming on. Obviously, again, guys, Offsides of Mark Ryan, 3 to 7 every single day, Monday through Friday. You guys can check him out on the airways at the Fan Upstate, of course, and at Mark Ryan on air on Twitter and on social media. Mark, appreciate you taking the time, man. It's always a pleasure, and I look forward to chatting with you on Monday of next week.
Sounds good, brother. Love you guys. Take care. Have a great week. Enjoy the games. Should be holidays. First 2 days of March Madness. We'll talk to you guys
Indeed.
soon.
Yes, sir. We'll talk to you soon, Mark. Appreciate you. Great stuff with Mark Ryan of the Fan Upstate. Appreciate Mark as always taking the time. Always an electric conversation. Yeah, I really admire and respect what Mark does. And, there's a reason he does it full time. There's a reason they have so much success in doing it. Guys, we'll go ahead and jump into our first break. On the other side, I would love to hear from you, your questions, your comments, your calls, and more. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. All right, guys, are back. Taking the questions, comments, calls. 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377. South Carolina's coordinators currently speaking to the media. Dowell Loggins, Clayton White, and Pete Lembo speaking today. So I think that's going to be – that won't be an every Wednesday thing, I don't think. But they are speaking today to give updates, I guess, on spring practice. So be interesting to see what especially Dowell Loggins has got to say. I know we're all intrigued. Let's see. Just reading up on the Loggins comments. Nothing too crazy. Anyways, 843-790-3377. Yeah, appreciate Mark taking the time to chat. Always a pleasure. Joseph says at first, I definitely thought Mark Ryan was a Carolina hater. Seems like he has changed over the past few months. One of my favorite guests. Yeah, I mean, Joseph, I think that's the danger of just getting kind of a small snapshot into someone and not doing more digging. I'm not saying you did this, but not being able to see more of that person and their work and their perspective. And that's why Mark Ryan is not a Clem Sucks fan, not even remotely. So I just, I've been able to see that from the jump, and that's why it was a no-brainer for me to get him on the show. And Mark definitely provides value to this show and in the Gamecock space, and I appreciate him doing so. But yeah, listen, Mark has takes like everybody else, and sometimes those piss off Gamecock fans, but he also has takes that piss off Clem Sucks fans as well. So trying to toe that line, I can understand is really, really tough. So anyways, guys, let's go ahead and jump to the phone lines here.
Call from
Dalton.
Dalton, what's up, man? How are you?
How's it going, man? You
Doing
ready
well.
for March Madness?
I am. Yeah, I'm excited for the games tomorrow. I don't know exactly how many of them I'll watch, but I'll do my best to tune in and stay up to date with everything.
So one question I have for you is, obviously the women are the number one overall seed, expected favorites to win a national championship this year. Mm-hmm. Do you think it would be a failure if they did not win a national championship in this year's?
Yeah, well, I mean, failure is a strong word, Dalton. Failure is a bit of a strong word, but I think most certainly it'd be falling short of expectations. I mean, credit to Dawn Staley, because it really does show the program that she has built to where it is national championship or bust, and when you're the favorite and you're the number one overall seed and you're undefeated. Yeah. I mean, listen, if South Carolina does not win the national championship, will this season be considered a success? I think the answer is no, so it's just a credit to what you've built, and the standard is what the standard is. And, so, yeah, I think anything short of the national championship for the Gamecocks women's basketball team, I think you could argue that it would be a quote-unquote failure of a season because you did not reach the ultimate goal.
Yeah, I mean, the tournament's weird. I certainly do expect that they will win the national title, but
it does. Sure it feels aggressive to say failure in a season in which you're literally 32-0 and you won the SEC championship. But I mean, it's just it's just the reality of again what you've built and what expectations you've created.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes. I don't expect for this team to have any issues in the early rounds here. Against whoever we're playing, Norfolk or whatever, we're gonna, beat them by like 50. But
yeah,
in the Final Four, anything can happen. You're going up against teams that are just as talented, or, maybe not just as talented, on a similar talent level to you. And if you play a bad game, I mean, one game sample size, anything can happen. So I'm excited for the men and the women's tournament, and I certainly think this March Madness is going to be awesome. But one question going to baseball that I want to ask you is, obviously we're going into SEC play against Georgia. what is your outlook for this sort of series that we're playing this weekend? Do you expect us to sweep the series? Do you think that would be a good result against Georgia, or do you think taking 2 out of 3 would be, the result that you would expect, and that would also be a good result?
Well, I mean, I think a sweep obviously would be a great result. The SEC, we all know how deep it is, and it's the best conference in all of college baseball. And so, a team like Georgia, while they may not be one of those ranked in the top 10 or a team that was really that highly thought of coming in the season, they're still a quality ball club. You know what I mean? So if you can go on the road and sweep them at Foley Field, I mean, that is an incredible weekend. And I think that'll be, I think even though they're not, say, LSU, Florida, whatever, I think that would be a very loud statement in the first weekend of SEC play that, hey, like, this isn't just something we were doing in non-conference play. Like, the Yardcocks are for real. If you can go on the road, win 2 out of 3, I think that's a great weekend. I will lock in my predictions, Dalton, tomorrow on this weekend, but I will admittedly say that I'm siding more probably towards the 2 out of 3 versus the sweep. I just think it's an interesting weekend because it's so unpredictable, right? I mean, we've seen the Gamecocks against Clem sucks, but it's a different level of competition, right? You take that next step up now going into SEC play. And again, playing all 3 games away from home at Georgia's ballpark. So, the Dogs are going to give you their best shot. They've obviously got talent. They've got real SEC talent. Took 2 of 3 from Georgia Tech earlier this year. And they're a solid ball club. They may not, again, they may not be one of the upper echelon teams. They may not be a team that, is even ranked, but still a really tough team. And I think Georgia's a ball club that'll give some people trouble throughout this year. So it's a big weekend, obviously, for South Carolina, as each and every single weekend of the SEC is. But, if you can win the series, if you win the series, I think you consider that, especially on the road, Dalton. You take 2 out of 3, you consider that success. If you sweep, I mean, that is a huge weekend. So I think there's a lot of reasons, obviously, for us to be excited about it. And I'm really, really excited to see how this team performs as you get going in SEC play.
And then do you believe that this weekend will be the first sort of weekend where we see Will Sanders sort of get his season back on track, so to speak? The last couple starts have been slightly underwhelming compared to what we expected out of Will Sanders. But I feel like if he goes in game 1 against Georgia and, gives up 2 earned runs, 6 innings pitched, that'll be sort of a spark that'll lead to more good things in the future.
At risk of sounding like a broken record, Dalton, because I've already said this this season, at risk of sounding like a broken record, this is a huge start for Will Sanders. And I think we will see the best version of Will. This is a game where, he's from the state of Georgia. I'm sure he knows a lot of guys on that Bulldogs roster. And I think this is one, you think about 2 years ago, right, when he pitched in this game. I don't think it was his first start, but it was very early in his career. And he threw really, really well. And I think it was the series clincher, actually, that he pitched. So I think Will Sanders, I think the juice, I think he'll be turned up a little bit, right? I think the blood will be pumping, if you will. I think there's a little bit of extra juice in this one for Will. And, I would expect him to pitch well because he hears all the chatter. He knows what's on the line. He wants to keep that starting job on that Friday night. And so I do believe that we're going to see the best version of him. And if we don't, obviously the chatter is going to continue to build and people are going to say, should he be moved? But I really feel confident that Will Sanders will throw well for you. But it's definitely, Dalton, to your credit, it's without a doubt, it's a big start. It's a really big start. And you set the tone on Friday nights, right? I mean, South Carolina was able to overcome, defy the odds, if you will, in 2021 when they went 2-8 in game 1s and still ended up going, 15-15, or I think it was 16-14 in SEC play. So, but winning game 1s, you set the tone on Friday night, and I feel confident that Will Sanders will be that tone setter for you this weekend and all throughout this season as well.
Well, I hope so. I'm looking forward to this weekend's slate of March Madness games, as well as, the series against Georgia. And I certainly think we're going to beat Georgia, although, this is the SEC and every team's good. So, but starting out with series wins against Georgia and Mizzou would certainly be a great start in SEC play. And it would sort of, set the tone for what we're going to see the rest of the season. And I certainly expect that to happen, considering we're leading the country, I believe, in home runs, or at least one of the top 5. So, the bats keep producing like that. You certainly don't want to have bad starts from your pitching staff, but putting all the onus on the pitching staff to win you games is not how you navigate SEC play.
Right.
You have to score runs, and
right.
I think we've been doing a pretty good job of that.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I know knowing you, Dalton, you're going to have some action going the next couple of days, right? I know you got to. You got any favorites? You got anything you're looking at extra close? You think there's some value to be found?
I like Providence on the spread against Kentucky. Kentucky has just let me down one too many times in big games, and I refuse to bet on them in this spot. So I think Providence is going to cover or win. I like College of Charleston to upset San Diego State. I believe that's the 12 against the 5 in that. So I definitely like what the Cougars have. I think they're sort of underseeded, underrated, if you will, because of the conference that they play in. But the Cougars are a dangerous team, and I think that they're going to win that first round matchup against San Diego State. And so those are my 2 biggest ones that I feel confident in a win there.
Very nice. It'll be a lot of fun, man. It's a bit of a gambler's dream right over the next couple of days with all the games going on. So it'll definitely be a blast, and we'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah, it can turn into a nightmare, though. I'll have you know.
Hey, just don't start chasing. Don't start chasing, my friend. Don't start chasing.
All right. Well, that's all for me, and you have a good one. Thank you for taking my call, and I'll talk to you later.
Dalton, you're the man. I appreciate it. Take care. Great stuff from our friend Dalton. And yeah, I know we're all excited for March Madness. And of course, the gambling side of things, man. The gambling side of things makes it special. By the way, let's see. I think it was Chris Smith that pointed this out. Yeah, per Bovada. Bovada has lines for the women's college basketball games. Normally women's college basketball isn't getting lines or spreads, what have you, during the regular season. But the postseason, you get them. South Carolina is a 48.5 point favorite against Norfolk State on Friday. 48.5. So, should be a fun one. Should be a fun one for Dawn Staley's squad against the. I don't even know what Norfolk State's mascot is. I really don't. So. Anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. Coleman Hall says, given the single elimination manner of the basketball tournaments, I think a Final Four appearance is about all you can really reasonably expect. Yeah, Coleman, that's a good point. Austin Greer says they're 49.5 point favorites. Well, DraftKings. Okay, so DraftKings has them too. I didn't know that. Okay, I didn't know that DraftKings had a women's college basketball line, so I'll probably just reference them then. I didn't know that. Let's see. Okay, let's go ahead and jump to the phone lines here.
Call from
Football Frank.
Football Frank, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, pal, how you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. Appreciate you asking. What's going on?
I'm sure Dalton knows scared money don't make money.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Indeed. That is a fact.
171 days till football. Just got to keep everybody filled in.
I love that. The countdown never stops. The countdown never stops.
Never stops. I didn't watch yesterday's game, but over the weekend I was kind of excited to see Caleb Denny hit that grand slam. I know it's only one hit, but hopefully it settles him down a little bit and gets us out of that leadoff batter slump. So between if we could straighten that out, and like I said, get Sanders up there and throwing some gems early in the weekend, then that would probably set us straight in these 3-game away series.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, I think I speak for a lot of people. I'm just excited to get in SEC play, man. I mean, yesterday was great. Obviously, you get the dub, and over the weekend, taking care of business against Bethune-Cookman. But now it's really time to see, right, what what this team can do against the best competition in all of college baseball. And I'm actually glad you bring this up, Frank, because, I talked about my expectations for this club navigating through non-conference play. I said if you were hitting below 300 after the non-conference, that it would be, probably a reason to be concerned. Well, you finished non-conference play hitting 308. So you did what I asked you to do, and the ERA sitting at 2.55. So you feel really good about your ball club and, what you've done to this point and the way you're winning games. And, you're 26 for 28 also in stolen bases. So you're active on the bases as well. And I think you have a lot of guys that are playing their best baseball right now. So you should be in a great position to start off SEC play on the right foot or the right note, if you will. And excited to watch the Gamecocks take on the Dogs this weekend. But and I think you make a lot of great points in regards to guys that are getting going, getting hot, and hopefully that'll continue.
Yeah, I mean the stats, like you said, stats are good. ERA, batting average overall. It's a great confidence still coming into this part of the season. And I also think that the guys are playing great small ball. Taking advantage of stuff on and off the bases. Which is a plus. A lot of people, don't realize all that. Advancing the runner. These pass balls, taking advantage of that on base. A lot of teams don't do that. They seem to be working that out. So that's another great facet I think they got going for them.
Yeah, the approach, Frank, obviously is much different than from a season ago. There's just no question, right? The approach it's night and day different, and it's paying major dividends right now. So there's a mix of power, there's a mix of speed, like you mentioned, productivity, productive outs, if you will. And again, now we just have to see that continue because, hey, especially on like Friday nights, or you're going to have games where you're facing elite arms, and you might have to win a game 3-2. I mean, there's still going to be games where you score double-digit runs and you're swinging the bats well, but there's going to come more than a couple of opportunities to win close games, win come from behind games, and that's I think somebody phrased it beautifully yesterday that in the SEC you're probably going to win 10 of your games and lose 10 of your games. It's just what do you do with the other 10, right? How do you fare in those? So. And I love that quote, in baseball, you win a third of the games you play and you lose a third of the games you play. What do you do with the other third? It's sort of, it exactly stands true to that point. So I'm just excited again to see how this team fares. And, these next 30 conference games will truly determine what this season's going to be.
Yeah. I mean, even if you look at the one loss, against Clem sucks. I'm not sure what exactly it was, but it looked like, maybe they were a little intimidated to get into that elevated, an elevated team, high level of talent. And I thought they left a lot on the table for that game. And they definitely did not let that happen through the rest of the series. And I think had they got that momentum going a little bit earlier, 1 or 2 innings earlier in that Clemson game, we could have easily swept that series.
No, for sure. Yeah, for sure. It's it'd be crazy to think we could be undefeated right now, but still, I mean, I don't think there's anybody out there that wouldn't have taken that 17-1 record and what we've been doing at this point. So again, you put yourself in a position where you're entering conference play with as much confidence as you could possibly ask this ball club to have. I think it'll pay off big too. I think we'll see it pay off big.
Yep, that's great. I'm going to let you go. I'm going to hit the road. Good talking to you. Have a great day.
Frank, always a pleasure, my friend. I appreciate you calling in. Great stuff from Frank, as always. Guys, we've hit 1:15. Let's go ahead and jump into a break. Let's see. Yes, Hayden Hurst of the Panthers for sure. Breaking 70. Appreciate you tuning in. Like I said, let's jump into a break on the side. Let's continue with it. Your questions, your comments, your calls, and more here on this Wednesday. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. All right, guys, we're back. Taking your questions, comments, calls. 843-790-3377. Michael Lynn says, you need commercials. Chris, you should do promos for local businesses. Just an idea. Do you, Michael? I think that's a great idea. No, absolutely. I've actually pitched that to a couple of our business partners, and nobody's really taken advantage of it yet. So, that is certainly something, Michael, I would be more than open to. And I think there's great value in a business having or using that commercial space, if you will. So, Michael, I like where your head's at, man. Absolutely. I think you're spot on with it. Michael in Norfolk State is number 1 in scoring defense in the nation. South Carolina is number 2. Okay, so Norfolk State is also the Spartans, I have learned. So I don't think the Gamecocks will have much trouble with the Spartans, but hey, that's why they call it March Madness. You never know. You never know. So let's see. Anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. That is 843-790-3377 here on this Wednesday, March the 15th, 2023. Mark's right. You got to get a little creative this time of year, right? With with content and just everything that's going on. Not quite as busy as some other times of year, but, we love it. We love it either way. Pete Limbo says, we don't hand out a playbook on special teams. There's a reason for that. If I can't teach them what they need to know in a 20-minute meeting and the 25 to 30 minutes of practice time we get, it's too much. Love that. Keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple, stupid. I love this from Dowell Loggins. He said, the way you get the next 5-star is you sign one. You have to be able to get one of those guys before you can get a lot of those guys. I think that's a great perspective from Dowell Loggins and how it's a bit of a snowball effect in recruiting. Let's jump to the phone lines here.
Call from
Robbie Davis, Zaxby's Hall of Famer.
Robbie Davis, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing on this Wednesday? Is it Wednesday?
It is hump day indeed, my friend. I'm doing well. Appreciate you asking.
Okay, I was right. Okay.
Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Nice.
My mom's not doing so good though.
What's going on with that?
So good. I don't know. She went to the doctor yesterday, got checked out, and something's going on. I don't know all the details. Just
well, prayers for your mother, my friend. Prayers for Mama Davis.
So and also, I meant to say this yesterday. I found out exactly 1 week ago tomorrow that my cousin that I said was going to possibly go to Clemson, she's going to USC.
Love that. Great decision. Great decision, my friend.
And she told me that she actually talked to some of the big wigs for Clemson, and they told her to go to Carolina. I was like, they really told you to go to Carolina? I find that hard to believe.
Even they know.
But yeah, she's a future Gamecock, so she'll be leaving, I think, in August. Is what she told me. So, but I joked with her and I said, "No, I have an excuse to go to games and stuff now." But I think the baseball team played about as well as expected yesterday. I was only a full hand and one finger off of my prediction. I was 6 runs off of my prediction because my prediction was 8-3. So I was only 6 runs off of my prediction. But all it is a prediction. I don't care how it happens as long as we win and win convincingly and just take care of business. I don't care how it happens.
Yeah, it's always.
I definitely think Go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's always interesting. I'll have some people that'll give me hell for quote unquote like missing a prediction, and it's just because the score was a bit off. But it's like we still won. So I mean, what? That's not a missed
Exactly.
prediction. I picked a win. So I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. And I definitely think that this coming weekend, Will Sanders is going to shove. Okay. This is our first conference series. I think he's going to be ready, and he's going to be wanting to prove a point. That Friday game against Clemson was a bunch of tomfoolery.
Mm-hmm.
So I would hate to be Georgia batters right now.
Yeah, I think Will throw well. I really do. I think he'll perform. I think again, this is a big game for him being from the state of Georgia. You know, I thought it was a really cool thing 2 years ago when he pitched against him. Again, he's from Atlanta, right, or right around the area. So I'm sure he knows a lot of the guys on that Georgia roster, and I'm sure they recruited him. So this will be a big one for sure. And I'm excited to see, excited to see him take the bump.
Oh yeah, and I think it's basically safe to say that I think regardless of how this season goes, okay, of even if we don't make a regional or if we even do, all right, no matter how this season goes, I would be shocked beyond belief if Will Sanders did not get drafted.
He's projected as a first rounder, so I would be shocked as well.
like if I was in front of a bunch of scouts, I'd be like, look, don't let a 1 or 2 or 3 bad weekends define if you're going to get the guy or not. I mean, obviously the man has the stuff, and I know there's a major difference between college baseball and professional baseball, but with work, he can get to the point to where whenever he does go pro, he doesn't even skip a beat. It would be like he's been pitching in the major leagues for 5 years.
Yeah.
If he works at it.
Yeah, I think Will Sanders has got a very bright future, no doubt.
And I'm hoping, and I definitely if I had a bracket in front of me, I would, for the girls tournament, I would definitely have, South Carolina winning the tournament. Not to sound biased, but I mean, who else is really in the running to possibly knock us off the pedestal? I mean, anybody that they put in front of us, we knock them down.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think the Gamecocks are really going to feel a challenge until we get to probably the Elite Eight, maybe. That's when the games will start getting somewhat interesting. But
oh yeah. But we'll see how everything goes, come Friday, and then just do like you've been doing all season long. Take it one game at a time. Worry about the game in front of you right now, and then whenever that game is over, get ready for the next one.
I need a coach Robbie Davis in my life. You should be coaching somewhere, Robbie. You should be coaching somewhere.
I can't believe we're 48.5 point favorites. I honest to goodness am shocked that we are favored by that much.
Well, if I recall correctly, last year, I forget who we played in that first game, but I think we were favored by like 51, and I think we covered. So it's not as crazy as you might think. Let's just say that.
And I talked to Marinard yesterday while we were moseying around town doing all kinds of stuff. Definitely, because he's a big basketball guy. He loves basketball. We are definitely going to try and go to some College of Charleston basketball games next season, because it's right there, right down the road. But I will be pulling for the College of Charleston Cougars and Furman for the men's tournament.
Love that. Yeah, represent the state, right? Furman and CFC. Definitely hope to see them do well. Definitely hope to see them do well. Yep.
And as a matter of fact, my cousin that I mentioned earlier, her birthday is in 2 days.
Really? Okay.
So she's a St. Patty's baby.
Very nice. Happy early birthday.
So, I'll tell her you said happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
And also, I think if I'm switching to baseball, I know I always jump around, but I'm switching. Okay. Anyways, I think Braswell, okay, for the baseball team. What's his? Yeah, you know who I'm talking about.
Michael Braswell?
I think if he won,
Michael Braswell?
Yes. I think if he winds up not getting any playing time or a chance to hit a lot this season, I honestly would not be surprised if he transferred. I'm actually surprised he hasn't already transferred.
Well, and Kevin Madden actually today, I'm not sure if you saw this, Robbie, but Kevin Madden has left the team and apparently intends to enter the transfer portal per the Big Spur. I was going to say to that point, I don't think there's really a whole lot of value in hitting the transfer portal right now. But after the season, guys will reevaluate their situations and just sort of go from there. And listen, I totally respect it, man. Guys want to play. They don't want to sit the bench. And, it's tough because Braswell was such an impact guy for us last year, but just because that was the case last year doesn't mean that's the case this year. So I think Braswell's a really good baseball player, and if it doesn't work out at South Carolina, he will most certainly find a new home. But yeah, we'll see. It's a long season.
I'm guessing the reason Madden is transferring is because of playing time.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think he had 11 at bats and he went 1 for 11 and wasn't playing, and that's that. So and he's also got one last year to use. So I guess that, he obviously wants to get the most out of it and, because he wants to play at the next level. So.
Well, best of luck to him. Hopefully the change of scenery helps and he starts doing better. And that's one of the bad things about having so many great players on a baseball roster. You want to play everybody, but you can only play 9 of them.
That's a fact, man. Yeah, no, for sure. It's extremely competitive, and guys win jobs, but iron sharpens iron. But for other guys, it means to play, they're gonna have to probably go elsewhere. So just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, and sometimes you just need a change of scenery whenever it comes to being in college.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe one university that would be good for somebody else, or that is toxic for you, is better for somebody else. Maybe going somewhere else, it would be better and beneficial for somebody else than, say, me or someone else in my family. Because if I was at a school somewhere and it was like a toxic atmosphere, I'm gonna want to get the heck out immediately. So, but anyways, best of luck to him, and Go Gamecocks, and to heck with Clemson, okay? When are y'all going to learn that no matter how hard y'all try, y'all are not going to be better than us in baseball? When y'all going to learn? They need to learn, and quick.
Well
So.
said, Robbie. Well said. Hey, I appreciate you as always, my friend. It's always great to hear from you.
You're welcome. And as always, leave the dumb stuff to me, okay? Leave the idiotic, dumb stuff to me.
We will no doubt, my friend. We will no doubt. I appreciate you, Robbie.
All right. You too, buddy. All right. Bye-bye.
Yeah, man. Have a good one. Great stuff from Robbie Davis, as always. By the way, the big news in the sports world right now, Aaron Rodgers has made his intentions clear. He plans to play for the New York Jets. So, Aaron Rodgers, head of the Jets. What do you guys think about it? Very interesting stuff. I know we don't talk a lot of NFL on this show, but yeah, that's the big news shaking the sports world right now. So, Ranger Ryan, why would Braswell transfer if Wimmer's going to the league next year? That's a great point, Ranger Ryan. That's a great point. Yeah, he could stick around and fight for that starting shortstop job, but you just have to wait and see. I don't know. I have no idea, Ranger Ryan. No idea. We'll have to wait and see what his what his decision will be. What his decision will be. So Jacob E says Braswell's at bats have been terrible this season. Have not been great. You got to wonder where his head's at. You know what I mean? Jeff Gullich is just like Brett. He left the Packers to go to the Jets. Yeah, I don't know why, as I lose my headset here, I don't know why that's the hot destination, if you will. But it is. Guys, very excited, by the way, as the TSUS tour, the spring tour with our friends over at Carolina Ale House begins next week. We have got exclusive merch that I will be carrying on the tour. The Beamer Ball to the Moon tour, right? T-shirts that are, we've designed as sort of like a when your favorite artist or a musician or a group, whatever, goes on tour and you can buy like a tour T-shirt that has the dates and all that good stuff. Well, we've created our own Beamer Ball to the Moon tour T-shirts, and those will only be available on the spring and summer tours with our friends at Carolina Ale House. I will have those on hand, and I will have those on hand. And we'll have them for sale. So you guys come on out to get the merchandise. We'll drop a video tomorrow promoting the merchandise. Really, really cool stuff. Really cool. I love the merch. I love the merch. D1Baseball.com has projected their permanent opponents for SEC baseball. So the permanent opponents, you're going to have two permanent opponents. You're going to have two permanent opponents every year. They project South Carolina's to be Vanderbilt and Kentucky. Excuse me. Was that correct? No, excuse me. I read that wrong. I read Tennessee's. Kentucky and Georgia. Kentucky and Georgia, which I would take that in a heartbeat. I would absolutely take that in a heartbeat. That's about as manageable as you're going to get. So, guys, let's jump into one final break. On the side, we'll close it out with more of your questions, your comments, your calls, and more. On the side, you're tuned in to the Daily Crow. All right, guys, we're back. Final 15 minutes or so here in the Daily Crow, taking your questions, comments, calls, 843-790-3377. That is 843-790-3377. I want to go back to something that Dalton brought up a little bit earlier in the show. Is it too aggressive to say that after a 32-0 start, if South Carolina women's basketball does not win the national championship, is it too aggressive to say the season's a quote-unquote failure? Right? That was the question posed by Dalton earlier. So I don't know. That feels to me like, to say the season's a failure if you don't win the national championship, it just feels aggressive because so much good has been accomplished in this season. But I mean, credit to Dawn Staley and the expectations they've created. But, if you don't win the national title, you fell short of expectations. You fell short of your goal. So while I don't think calling it a failure maybe is fair, it will certainly be short of expectations if this team does not finish the job and win it all in a few weeks. And when you look at the roster, you look at the way this team's built, you look at Dawn Staley, the best coach in women's college basketball. I mean, there's no reason. I mean, they're the favorites in Vegas, I think minus 190 or minus 200 to win it all. Clear-cut favorites to be hoisting the trophy. I mean, if they do not, I don't know if, we'll look at the season and say that was a failure, but we will say that this team did not hit the mark. They did not reach expectations. And that's just the reality when you've built a program like Dawn Staley has done. So you got to give a lot of credit to her and give a lot of credit to them for what they've built. So, yeah, okay, fair enough. Lynn Turner, Marion R., not a failure, but a disappointment. No doubt, yeah. Not a failure, but a disappointment. That is a yeah. That's a good way to put it. I also think failure is way too aggressive. Like if you were to lose in the round of 32 or something like that, then okay, then maybe we can have that discussion. But to try to call it a failure, I think you just completely discredit everything else you've done at this point, which it's been a really, really special season. Really, really special season. So. Anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. Would love to hear from you guys. A bit of a slow day, to be totally honest with you, in the Gamecock side of things. Nothing too crazy taking place. Nothing too crazy. Nothing off the wall, over the top, what have you. The big news in the sports world, again, is Aaron Rodgers making his intentions known that he is going to play for the Jets. So. Let's see. Just looking at more quotes from the coordinators speaking today. Let's see. Limbo asked about how special teams has become woven into the fabric of what South Carolina does as a program. Quote, "It's kind of become part of our brand for this coaching staff at this university at this point in time." No kidding. Beamer ball to the moon. Beamer ball to the moon indeed. Let's see. Dowell Loggins. Speaking with the media. Let's see. Logan says that Lenoris Sellers has impressed during the offseason. Said he's always first in the building and last to leave. Said that he's earning some reps that a freshman might not usually get. How about that? Lenoris Sellers already making an impact. Loggins also said he's very impressed with Luke Doty as a leader and a teammate in the quarterback room. How about that? I know my guy Bruin Nation is Bruin Nation's loving hearing that. Loving hearing that. Travi, when was the last unbeaten women's basketball team? I'd have to look that up. Let's see. Unbeaten women's basketball teams. The 9 undefeated women's basketball national champions. Let's see. The last one to do it, yes, was UConn. 2015, 2016, they went 38-0. Before that, it was also UConn. 2013 to 14, they went 40-0. How about 2011 to 2012? Baylor went 40-0. 09 to 10, UConn 39-0. They've been very good. 08 to 09, UConn 39-0. 01-02, UConn 39-0. Good Lord. 97 to 98, Tennessee 39-0. 94 to 95, UConn 35-0. 85 to 86, Texas went 34-0. Those are the 9 undefeated women's basketball national champs. Of course, Baylor was the Brittany Griner teams. Yes. Brittany Griner and Odyssey Sims. That is a lot of undefeated seasons for UConn, though. I know they've got a great program, but damn, UConn is great history. But, Don's looking to build that with us. So I'll tell you this. I know it's going to happen at some point, but when South Carolina finally does lose a game, it'll be surprising. It'll be surprising. Because I don't see anybody in the way of the Gamecocks. I really don't. Who can stop South Carolina? Wow. Adam Schefter confirming Aaron Rodgers' report. Aaron replied, "Lose my number." God, I mean, what's the beef with Rodgers and Schefter? Interesting. Anyways, guys, appreciate you all tuning in. It was great yesterday, by the way, to talk business. It really was, to talk business and some different things. Michael Lynn, we talked a lot about DK at running back yesterday. I love it. I love it. Given an opportunity to utilize his skill sets. Also, it's a position of need for us. I think, dude, the spring's the time. Give him a look. Why not? I think spring is absolutely time to give him a look, and I'm excited to see what he can do, because, he's a great athlete. We know that. He's a great athlete, and he's a guy that when he touches the football, good things happen. Good things happen. But no, it was cool yesterday, man, just getting to talk business and thinking about the future, and obviously we stay present moment and everything, but always fun to kind of daydream and look ahead and talk about some of the things that we've got visions of. So really, really cool. But always appreciate you guys the love, the support, tuning to the podcast, the Daily Crow. It's days like today, guys, and these weeks, and it's easy to stay consistent in content during football season and during the madness that is. But this time of year, man, it's really special. We've got this crew tuned in, and we're staying consistent with the content, everything going on, and really excited for the weekend, though. Really excited for SEC baseball to get going. Also, it begins tomorrow, and let's look at some of the best series of the weekend. There's actually a couple of midweek games tonight. Mizzou plays Lamar at 4, Arkansas, UNLV at 4, and Mississippi State, Louisiana at 6. That'll be a good game. That'll be a really good game. Vandy, Ole Miss tomorrow at 7, and Florida, Alabama at 7. How about that? A couple of really good series getting going tomorrow night. Ole Miss and Vandy 3 versus 6, and Bama versus Florida 24 versus 5 in that one. The rest of the SEC looks like this. Of course, Carolina, Georgia, and I'll say the home team first. Georgia, South Carolina, Kentucky, Mississippi State, Texas A&M hosting LSU, Missouri hosting Tennessee, and then finally Arkansas and Auburn. So SEC baseball gets going tomorrow night. Then, of course, Friday, everybody is in play. Games ranging from 6 to 7:30. Going to be a lot of fun. So even some of the games getting on the big channel on SEC Network. Stay tuned, by the way, guys. The podcast will drop tomorrow to be a full breakdown of the series this weekend. Also, we'll talk a little women's basketball and also some more spring ball talk, as I'll talk some position battles that you should be paying attention to and watching for and I guess listening out for, if you will, because, again, we're not at spring practice. We're not behind the scenes, if you will. So we're not able to watch these battles unfold, but just some battles to keep in mind, some position battles that, will inevitably be taking place. For example, the running back position, wide receiver 2, cornerback number 1, if you will, the defensive front, linebacker, the center position. Shane Beamer saying yesterday that Vershawn Lee and Nick Gargiulo are the two gentlemen battling out for that one. So, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to Gamecocks and Gamecock football and those position battles, if you will, and some very important ones for sure that will have a massive role in shaping this season. No doubt. So. Anyways, guys, appreciate you all tuning in. You know what's also heating up? The transfer portal for college basketball. As I'm sure Lamont Paris is a very, very, very busy man right now, scouring the transfer portal for some help for his program. No doubt. And there's good players available for sure. And, we'll see who the Gamecocks can sign. But, got to go get some dudes. Got to go get some dudes for sure. Got to go get some dudes. No doubt. Anyways, guys, appreciate you all tuning in. Great stuff today, as always. TDC rocking as normal tomorrow, Friday, noon to 2, right here from the studio. It's been nice this week being in studio. The consistency of the show, I know last week was obviously crazy. So great to be back on the home front. Also, guys, this weekend, do not forget the live stream watch-alongs for South Carolina, Georgia, the baseball series. It'll be Friday at 6, Saturday at 2, and then Sunday at 3 o'clock. So looking forward to those as we watch the games together and we react accordingly, and it should be a lot of fun. The live stream watch-alongs in the Clemsuck series was a massive success, so cannot wait to do these again and again. I appreciate you guys, your love and support on the home front, supporting us through different types of content and being there every single step of the way. But guys, we've hit 2 o'clock. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Appreciate it. Y'all have a great rest of your Wednesday, and we will talk to you all